Well, good morning. My name is Jim, if you don't know me. I drive an Expediter straight truck, and I thought I would go over the revenue numbers I had for the month of July 2026. I know it's almost August, but getting a little late start, but I finally had time to sit and put my numbers together and go through everything. So I am running as a solo. I would normally be running as a team with my wife, but she's staying home to take care of a few things, so I'm out here by myself. Had a pretty good month for June. Actually, better than I really ever thought possible. So, just to recap a little bit, I did a little over $20,000 last month, and I was out for 22 days. But this month, in June, I was out for 6 total loads, total of 9,293 miles for all the odometer miles for the month. Of those, the loaded miles was 6,943. I deadheaded 2,350 miles, which works out to be 25.29%. I try to keep that number under 30%, so last month was around 21, so I deadheaded a little bit more this time. I was out for a total of 23 days away from the house, days on the road from June 1st to the June 12th, and then again from the 19th to the 30th. Got the chance to go home for a weekend and stayed an extra couple days. All right, so let's look at those loads. First load I did was from Colorado to Missouri. Now, I ended up the month out in Colorado, so I separated from last month, actually delivered and picked up in Colorado. But this load went on this month. It was only 2 crates and 1 box, total weight 1,375 pounds and 737 loaded miles. The second load I did is I deadheaded from Missouri out to Arizona, took a load from Arizona to Virginia. There was 12 crates and 4 boxes, and this was a little bit different than normal. I actually had 3 stops. I stopped in Arkansas, Alabama, and finally delivered up in Virginia. Total weight was only 1,584 pounds, 2,329 loaded miles, and then again the 3 stops. I then deadheaded home. That was when I went home for the weekend there, and my next load was from Ohio to Arizona, and this was a dry load. The other 2 loads were reefer loads. Sorry I didn't mention that. This time I had 2 crates that weighed 1,000 pounds. It was 1,818 loaded miles. I then sat in Arizona for a little bit, ended up picking up a load going from Arizona back to Arkansas. This was also a dry load. This time I had 8 crates and 6 boxes, total weight of 2,800 pounds, and that was 1,259 loaded miles. Next load was Tennessee to Georgia. This was a refrigerated load, 2 pallets, 70 pounds, 410 loaded miles. And then I picked up the same morning I unloaded in Georgia, going back to Mississippi, just outside of Memphis. And this was also refrigerated. This was 1 pallet, 185 pounds, 380 loaded miles. So for the entire month of June, I had 7,014 pounds of total weight hauled for the month. So the average weight on each load was 1,169 pounds, and the average pieces were 6.333. It's hard to do. So let's look at the expenses for the month. Total fuel and DEF expenses were $420.66. I burned 991 gallons of fuel and 51 gallons of DEF. Overall, I got 9.38 miles per gallon for the fuel, and that's for all fuel burn, including the temperature control loads. I did 4 temp loads this month, and that reefer unit burns about a half a gallon an hour, and also my generator. That was 182 miles per gallon for the DEF. So, like I said, I estimate half a gallon an hour for the temperature control unit was running for 120 hours this month, around 60 gallons for temperature control fuel, estimated 2.5 gallons a day for the generator fuel, because I run it at night when I get stopped. 19 days equal 47.5 gallons. I spent 4 days in the campground here in Tucson, Arizona, and that's where I'm back again. So I actually stayed here 5 days this time around. So the truck fuel uses was 883.5 gallon, which works out, once you figure out the temperature control unit and the generator fuel, comes out to 10.5 miles per gallon for the truck. That sounds a little high, but it's probably close. The readout on my dash has been saying 10.4 for as long as we've been in the truck. So here's the revenue. Landstar charged the customer for these 6 loads $35,297.55. That works out to $5.08 a mile for all loaded miles. And that's for loaded miles. For all miles, $3.80 a mile. Of that amount, the truck received $25,019.20 to the truck. So per loaded mile was $3.60, and that's all odometer miles, $2.69 a mile. And again, Landstar is percentage-based carrier. For the month, the truck received 70.09% of the amount Landstar charged the customers for these loads. I've said before, our percentage of the line haul is only 62%, but we get 100% of the fuel surcharge and some of the accessorials, and also for reefer. So that was a little higher this month, and I believe it was the last. So we drive for a fleet owner, and not all fleet owners pay the same. We pay for our fuel and our DEF out of our percentage of the truck pay. After it was all said and done, we received right at $10,350 in our pocket. That's before taxes, but that is in our pocket. That's $450 a day based on 23 days on the road, $1.11 a mile for all miles driven. I think last month it was $1.19 for all miles driven, so down a little bit, but we drove a lot more. So I don't know if that's really good or bad, but that was a pretty darn good month for us. $25,000 to the truck, I think, would be considered a, above average, especially for a solo. I'm actually surprised that we did that, or I did that last month. But we'll see. Anyway, as I record this, it is the 26th of July. So July's numbers, hopefully I can get that video out there. Not doing quite as good in July. Probably end up around $15,000 to the truck for the month of July. So anyway, just thought I'd put that out there. Stay tuned. Subscribe if you haven't. Like the video. It helps me out. And we will talk to you all later. Peace.